Hello, I'm Glenn W. Hunter. With me today, our subject matter expert, Shor Denny of Community Now. And this is the three C's of social emotional learning: communication, community, and collaboration. And today we have a topic for you: hitting reset on learning. Sure, our children are going back into the classroom. What's up with that?
I am not sure. I'm not sure if they're sure. I know the kids are really excited, right? They're excited that they're going to be back. That socialization is getting ready to happen. They can freak out their teachers again, right?
Right.
They're shed of their parents and all of that oversight. I think that, in some ways it's going to be almost like summer, but going to school, excitement and all that. Maybe the first day of school, like, ah,
I think that is like sort of a wonderful effect that we're going to see with our youth is that excitement of the socialization. They've had to experience quite a bit of trauma through this. I mean, people are focusing on the adults, and the adults have issues, but my goodness, they're not untouched through all of this. So when you start thinking about all these moving parts, what trauma exists in the classroom that is waiting for the children as they're returning back?
well, gosh, there's trauma coming with them, right? So when they get there, there's the school is going to be different. Their spacing classrooms aren't as large. I think a lot of schools are doing hybrid. Some schools are doing like all the Monday through Thursday, so all kids come at one time. It's going to be different, probably in every school, not just every district. And I think that what that is going to be some of the trauma that they see plexiglass at their desks, right? They're not going to be doing a lot of moving anymore on the campus. I think a lot of schools have the youth cleaning, doing the disinfecting, like they clean their desk when they leave. Things like that are going to be really new and different. And I think, for some, it could be traumatizing because school is not going to be what it was, right? They're not going to be in the on the monkey bars, and they're not going to be running and playing tag and all of those great things that they were doing before COVID happened. So I think those are traumas that are going to possible traumas that will be waiting for them, but we have to remember that they are going to be coming full of trauma to school, right? A year of maybe not accomplishing anything, fear of failing the class, even fear of seeing their old friends again could be socializing fears, things like that that our youth are going to have to deal with as they come back to school.
Wow. I mean, everything from the academic component to the social component was really covered in your answer. And I think it's important for us to realize that our children aren't just students, and they're not just there for fun and the snacks. It's really a complex community that they have during normal times. And even these times are a little bit different, or a lot of bit different, frankly. So as they're sitting there and there's plexiglass and the rules are changing, I mean, what's going to be just good plain fun for them? I mean, what are there opportunities for it to seem just, hey, we're back in the saddle?
Just being there, I think, is going to be it. Getting up, getting dressed, and going to school. It's going to be different. It's going to be new and exciting. They need clothes if parents are going to buy clothes. New things, backpacks, all of that is getting ready to happen. So kids are going to get loaded up with new fun things, maybe, hopefully, and go to a new environment after sitting on the screen for a year talking to their teachers and their classmates. So I think it's going to be a lot of excitement, a lot of aggression. They're going to come there full of energy, full. And the teachers and the staff are going to have to know how to keep them calmer, how to work with the bursts that are going to happen. As we know, everyone right now, after your quarantine for such a period of time, we're aggressive. When we go out on the streets, we are aggressive, not really having to be a negative aggression, but we are full of energy, full of excitement, full of, and that can go positive or negative.
I think one of the unforeseen consequences is going to be, especially, particularly with the younger kids, the elementary school kids, after this block of time, is how much they're physically going to change. There's going to be some growth spurts there that's going to surprise a few people. And I think that's
Yeah.
going to be kind of fun. You can't help it. I mean, you're 8 years old. I mean, you put you in the corner, you come back, you come back taller when you get off punishment. So I think that's going to be neat.
Yeah.
But the trauma is not limited completely to the children. I mean, there's a sense of adjustment there. What trauma are the teachers bringing with them as they re-enter the classroom?
Well, let's just say that there is a record number of teachers leaving right at the end of this school year because they do not want to deal with post-COVID school. So that in itself, tenured older teachers are leaving. So that's a sense of the trauma, which actually leaves space for new teachers and new dynamics to come in. Also, the fact that they know that their kids have been struggling, and they now have to have all of those dimensions, right? The youth that didn't have connectivity, the youth that did have connectivity but didn't connect, right? Then you've got the youth that tried, that had connectivity and tried but needed a tutor, and then you have those that it worked. Homeschooling, the online distance learning worked for them. So when a teacher comes back to the classroom, they've got all of those kids to work with and see how to bring them onto a common line. We know that they have a certain subject or matter that they're working with in the curriculum, right now, what they should be doing, but it's how the teachers are going to make sure all the youth are there. They're there for that, and that they actually gain something to move on to the next grade. I think the teachers are going to be feel very responsible for the movement of their youth. I mean, we've got a whole world that just lost a year. A whole world lost a year. So our youth have lost time, and it's how do we make it up? I mean, these are questions. Do they have to make up the time? Is there going to be a worldwide hiccup in this year, and institutions move forward saying, okay, this year really didn't count? What are we going to do? And I think that has a lot to do with stress on both sides, the youth and the teachers, because they're all going back, but it's well, what are we going to do? How is this going to end up in this year?
No, I really like the way you talked about that point, especially of the compassion part of it, because we think of that with the smaller kids, but it literally goes through K through 12. I mean, these are still young people who need affirmation from a social emotional standpoint. And that's going to be sort of a challenge just as they interact physically different. Again, plexiglass in between. So what would be your advice to again, to some of the teachers, just to make sure that they're fully engaged with their coping capabilities to manage all these moving parts?
So let's start with Erickson's life stage development. In Erickson's statement, or in his theory, he says that between the ages of 5 and 12, that youth are developing inferiority versus superiority, or competence, right? So what the schools have to do is they have to work with this, and how are our kids doing with goal achievement is where I'm going. So goal achievement means that you are feeling competent in what you have done and you can strive forward when you achieve a goal. So when you study for a math test and you pass that math test, you've achieved a goal. That's goal achievement. It moves you forward to the next lesson, which is harder, but you feel competent that you can do that next lesson because you passed the first one. This is all stages of life, and this is something that our schools have to work with our youth no matter what, right? So a school institution, we were talking earlier, a school institution not only does socialization, it not only does academic education, but it also does life skill development that our youth need to succeed and excel as they move forward. So right now what we're looking at is our schools how are they going to do that? Where is this goal achievement coming from? And without the goal achievement, and as I said, it goes through all life, even though in our life stages it's most important between the ages of 5 and 12, it's through our whole life that if we fail and we fail and we fail, we tend to not want to try, right? I mean, even as an adult. So right now what we're looking at is a year of fail. Right. I mean, in some minds, it's a year of trying to connect and not connecting the teachers, trying to connect with those kids and not being able to reach out, So I think that that is really what needs to be dealt with is we need to achieve goals. So what goals are they going to be able to achieve when we're coming out of school? What will we be able to do to buffer our kids and the teachers to move into the next year, right? To have some goal achievement and not feel failures or be dragged into the next year, but want to go into that next year looking for opportunities, innovation. How do we succeed?
Yeah. So I think it's going to be very important, as you've outlined, for them to experience success, for lack of a better term, but to definitely have some positive feedback early on to basically fulfill their need to say, yes, I'm back in, I'm still relevant.
Yes.
So, oh,
Yes. So even the ones that weren't connecting, they
mhm,
have to find a way for them to succeed, right? So that they don't fear school, they don't fear moving forward, and they don't continue to fail. So I think that would be, something very important and something that the teachers should be looking at. And I think that would be something very stressful. How do I, in this environment, get my students to all achieve the goal, a goal?
mhm, mhm. No, I think one, it's a challenge, but it's a very important one. I'm glad you brought that to the forefront because with the theme of reset, hitting reset on learning, that kid who may be just a little uncertain, and when I say kid, again, K through 12, it's a little uncertain. Here's a chance for them to get an early affirmation and literally propel themselves forward as this transition comes, as
Right.
opposed to using it as an excuse to hide.
Exactly.
You know, so teachers, I mean, the rules are changing, but at the end of the day, you're still validating young people and embracing them, getting them to experience your love of learning. And we have an opportunity to really have a pivot in the educational prowess of our young folks. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
as we're talking about all these things moving on, and we keep talking about the coping skills, what's coping skills do our school children, what will they value as they re-engage into the learning environment? Because they are going to have to, 1 plus 1 is 2. That does become part of it.
So, um, coping is usually considered a word of standing still and dealing with something. But coping is a verb. Coping is an action word. It's something that you're in action when you cope. A lot of times when people think of coping, they think of emotion. Taking a bath. Oh, I need to cope with this, reading a book. I'm making a little coping box with little, face masks. And, it's more self-care, when we talk about coping. But coping also means problem solving. And as we problem solve, we cope, we strategize, and we're able to overcome the situations that we're in. So right now, when we're talking about coping, we're talking about problem solving. And how do we solve this problem of our youth not connecting? How do we solve the problem of some youth that have these huge gaps in their learning in this year? And how do we get them to where they are going to be able to move forward into next year? And some of these problem solving things that we can think of is tutoring, free tutoring. So I would say that I would wonder if the districts are working with their local community nonprofit organizations that do tutoring to see if they can set up free tutoring for all students through the summer, right? So that students are able to take advantage of getting that one-on-one support in moving forward. Another coping skill is just that, sitting down and catching up, learning how to catch up in the work that you're doing so that you are not behind. That is also a problem solving coping skill. When things happen to us, we as humans are adaptable, and we have to remember that we adapt. That's the whole reason that we're human, right? The other animals really are not adaptable. So when we adapt, that means that we can adapt to any situation. So at this time, the best thing that we could teach our youth is resilience that, okay, we know all of this stuff happened. It goes back to trauma informed care. It goes back to all of that. We know that crap happens, and we know that, this may not be fair. That where do we go from here? How do we move forward knowing that we can't do anything about it, right? How do we move forward and make the best out of what we have and go forward, looking excitedly at the future? So that's what we need to teach our kids, and that's what our teachers need to do. We need to look at how do we solve these problems, right? How are we going to get our kids to the next level, or are we not? Is goal achievement going to be we pass on this year? I mean, last year I think they did a pass fail. Maybe this year they need to do another pass fail for the youth. And then those youth that they have in the fail, they work with them through the summer to get them up and hopefully get them ready to pass. Have some type of a setup. So it would be, how do we recover? How do we get them again to achieve the goal? But how do we recover? And through problem solving and coping, that's it. So you don't know what's going on. Coping would be setting up time management time where you are going to study. So even through the summer, you're going to have 2-3 hours a day that you do your studying so that you catch up. That's problem solving. That's being resilient. And that is what we, even as Americans, that's what we do. When things come, we make lemonade out of lemons, right? That's what we do. So we need to be not complaining as much about the dilemma that we're in, but finding ways to make it better and to make it livable, make it okay.
Wow. I mean, everything from, the coping skills to the problem solving to the resilience. All of these are tools that are accessible to our youth as they're making this transition, as they're hitting reset on learning. And I
Right.
love the depth and passion that you brought to that answer, because I think that emotional connection is going to be so important for them to hit the ground running towards success. So with that as your backdrop, Shor, how do people get a hold of you?
Well, you can go online to communitynow.info. You can leave a message for us. You can subscribe, like, and share this video. That would be really great for us. And you can comment so that we can give us topics or let us know what you think of this one.
Outstanding. Once again, we have Shor Denny, our subject matter expert, leader of Community Now. I'm Glenn W. Hunter. This is the 3 C's of social emotional learning: communication, community, and collaboration. And as our youth and our teachers hit reset on learning, we want to urge you, encourage you, admonish you. Please be safe. Thank you.